Hi, Jason. Hi, Adair. So good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having us.
I'm so thrilled you're here with us. It's called business lunch, but it's like business breakfast because you guys are in LA.
Exactly. That's okay.
Jason and Adair, I've been at this for a few hours already this morning. I just want to thank all the people in the audience who are with us watching the first ever AD Pro Global Design Summit. And as I said in the morning, we've had guests from all over the world, and now I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. We are joined by an audience that's global right now, so, makes me a little nervous, but hi, everybody.
No pressure.
Thank you for joining us for lunch or breakfast or dinner or whatever time it is, wherever you are. I'm just going to do a quick I'm going to share the bios a little bit of Jason and Adair, our fabulous lunch guests today, so people who may or may not be familiar have a little bit of talking points, and then we'll have a chat.
Awesome.
So I'm going to start with Jason Bolden, the founder and creative director, co-founder, I should say, of Jason Studio. Jason is a celebrated American celebrity fashion stylist and creative director. He is very well known for his incredible work, his imagery that is poignant, culture shifting for people and brands of our times. He began his career working in retail for luxury ready-to-wear houses such as Chloe, Oscar de la Renta, and Gucci, and followed his love of fashion to New York City, where he opened a vintage store called The Garment Room at the famous 112 Green Street space in Soho. I remember it very, very well. Bolden curated the store's collection. He worked with designers to perfect the image and the inspiration for upcoming collections, and he soon began dressing celebrity friends for appearances, which he ultimately parlayed into a profession as a fashion stylist. He is currently one of the most prolific, important, and top Hollywood stylists working today with incredible clients. Oh my gosh, I love your Instagram. I'm always looking at the ladies, their dresses, Cynthia Erivo in that amazing mesh, like you'll tell me what it was. Taraji P. Henson, Yara Shahidi, a big favorite of mine, Alicia Keys, Ava DuVernay, Trevor Noah, we've already discussed today, has amazing taste, Sasha B. Lane, Vanessa Hudgens, Storm Reed, Janet Mock, Ryan Coogler, and so many more. Everybody watching today, if you want to see some amazing interiors, you want to see amazing style, amazing fashion, amazing celebrities, get on the Instagram and take a look. We'll see our first slide. It's all going to be a surprise to me, too.
I know.
Tell you that.
What is it? Show us.
What is it?
So nervous.
An apartment, a house. Let's see.
Wow.
Oh, beautiful. What are we looking at?
This particular project is really interesting because this is in the flats of Beverly Hills, which has become like a new crave for California and Los Angeles in general. Most things about LA, people love to go live in the hills, but the flats have become a very kind of important, coveted situation. And one thing that's really sensational about this is the fireplace is original. Mm-hmm. That's something that we kept. We did a lot of
the ceiling.
The ceiling is also original. We broke this living space up into like 4 living situations, seating situations.
Yeah. I'm looking at Jason because he's remembering a lot about the project that I'm like, wait, I can't remember.
This is actually one of my favorites. This is one of those homes I walked in and I was like, I want this house. And
I want it too. I love it.
Wait, but this house is actually really funny. This is one of the first times we met Ellen. Remember Ellen?
Yes.
Ellen walked through this house.
Ellen DeGeneres.
And she didn't know we were the designers, and she was talking about the aesthetic, and we were like, and she was like, I love this, I love that. Who did this? And I was like sneaking, like listening, peeking around corners. Clearly this was way before COVID, but this is one of those kind of interesting, very kind of easy, simple, just classic kind of California living.
And really,
I love that you kept the original ceiling and the original fireplace.
Yeah, the stained glass windows are original. And then what we really try to do with most of our projects, if the client will allow us to kind of move forward within our natural aesthetic, is kind of bring in some contemporary and then also mix it with some vintage, antique, really warm textured pieces to give these modern spaces some warmth.
Yeah, and the good thing about this particular thing is like, it was such a massive living space and they like to entertain, but they also wanted the space to be as easy and clean and simple as possible, but still have, you know, the warmth and the ease of just being able to relax. So that's why we decided to like break it up in this particular way. Like you could be there with your family, and then you could actually be on the other end in front of the fireplace reading a book and not really kind of being in the mix of the other party.
So it's spacious but cozy.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. That's a real compliment that Ellen reacted that way, because as we all know, she's a connoisseur, and you know, she knows what she's doing.
Like, it was really shocking. She came to it, and we're like, whoa. And I was like, that's Ellen. She had her hat, baseball cap on, and then she was like, love this, love this, love this. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, really nice. Let's go to the next slide. Is it going to be the same house, or let's see?
Not sure.
Oh, wow.
House.
Same house. Okay.
Same house, dining room. Again, for us, it's about relaxed luxury. Our clients tend to not want anything stuffy. Calming environments is what we normally gravitate toward in our normal aesthetic. Not a ton of color, and you know, a lot of our clients are art collectors, so the artwork that they collect a lot of the time has a lot of the color and the life, and it brings the life into the room.
The other thing that's really important about this particular room, yes, it is the art. The art, like, it's very special, important art. But we also decide, when we do a lot of things for personal clients, we try to get them involved in things that they are going to touch and feel every day, in which this particular thing is a dining room table, which we named the Ford after their child. So that table is custom. The two bleachers that are on the side, Adair and I actually found those at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And it was just another kind of interesting way to kind of pull the chairs away to kind of make it a bit more casual. And then they also liked, again, the same family likes to have really great parties. So there's ways to remove those chairs, have those benches along the side, and also play this as an art gallery, because they like to change and switch out seasonally their art. So it was just really kind of thinking how we can make this fit for this particular family.
Beautiful room.
Thank you.
Oh, same.
Is this their kitchen?
Yeah.
Same house.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
Again, they were always about just simplicity and just the ease of it all, but they wanted architectural things, and like these stools kind of came and made the story themselves. The cast iron glass doors were really interesting. So we kind of just leaned into that. And again, we kept it white because a lot of the space behind where you see the shelving for the dishes, we kept that blank because they like to constantly change out art. So we wanted to give them a space that they can constantly change out art and have talking conversations when people are sitting there at their island.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Is the dining room just sort of behind the wall there?
Yeah,
Is it
off to the left where you see that door, right above right above the island to the left.
Beautiful, beautiful doors.
Yes.
Okay, let's see the next slide and see what you've got for us. Oh, is this their house still?
Different house.
It's a different house.
Yeah, different house, different client. Still really contemporary in a lot of ways, but with a lot of soul, a lot of life. A few vintage pieces with I want to say that's a Max Alto sofa. And so we took also sofa with those vintage chairs and kind of mix it all up.
Well, this becomes a problem for me sometimes. So that particular coffee table, I try to take back for our house. So this is what happens in a lot of cases. Like that's still to date, that is my favorite coffee table. And I hate, like, when we purchase things or find things, because the coffee table is vintage, those two chairs that are corduroy are vintage, the leather is vintage, like all those, like pretty much everything in here is vintage
actually,
minus the sofa. And then there's a custom bench really far back by the bay window, but it gets really difficult sometimes when you fall in love with something, you want it for yourself. So that's when you know that, like, it's good. For us, we did it. We love it. We actually want to take it home with us.
Yeah, so, I agree. I mean,
this is kind of an ode to us missing New York as well.
In what way?
Well, I just think for us, I start thinking about, like, when it goes to fashion, I start thinking about, like, when Halston had this really fantastic office. And the painting reminded me of Halston so much. The swivel chairs reminded me of him so much. So I kind of leaned into that when I was talking to Adair about this particular living space. And this is actually a sunken living room.
Mm-hmm.
And it has that sexy low slung quality, very Halston, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, in light of Jason, in particular, your incredible fashion career, how that comes into play in an interior like this. How do the two different disciplines interact?
Well, I mean, we really narrowed things down to, even when you think for our point of view when it comes to styling and the red carpet, the hardest thing to do is simple, and that's the largest impact. And for when you see the way that I style, it's the aesthetic is very clean and very simple. And for example, this is the kitchen that leans into kind of like a family room. We decided to keep it very clean and very easy. That's a Frank Gehry.
Original Frank Gehry desk. It was a desk that he had made for himself, and we got it from a dealer here in Los Angeles. And he was really reluctant to sell it to us because he wanted to keep it for himself, and we convinced him that we really should own it. And I feel like this massive celebrity tried to purchase this table from us.
One of your cover stars walked in to buy this for her daughter's husband as a Christmas gift. But again, it's like,
no.
There goes no, but like
you said no.
We said no. And like, again, with the full aesthetic is like, what's so special about this is like, you can get lost in each space. Like there's something really great about those leather chairs. There's something really great about the stemware. There's something really great about the woven chair. It's the same way that we like to do things when it comes to the red carpets. Like you can focus on jewelry, you can focus on the pleats and a dress. Like we want to make sure that everything has a kind of a special moment. And that's what I think that was great about this particular space.
Yeah, I mean, that Gehry desk is a special moment. That's an incredible story. It's a beautiful piece. And it sounds like the owners are very lucky that you got the dealer to part with it, and then you protected it from the cover celebrity person. That's a gorgeous room. It's a great example of everything you're talking about, simplicity. All right, where are we now?
Oh, this is another house, and I feel like this is in the West Hollywood Hills.
Yes.
And yeah, we just got to play. And I think the client here really does kind of covet these really contemporary spaces, but understands how cold they can go. And so hired us to make it a little bit warmer while still keeping the contemporary lines and feel. And again, for us, not a ton of color, but you have these pops and these accents. And yeah, I think that's where we shine the most. Although the current group of projects that we have is really helping us stretch into further using color in a lot of other ways.
I think for us
too. Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about, sorry, Jason, tell me about that.
No, currently now it's just like we've kind of personally fell in love with color even more. And fortunately now we have clients who really push us to like, they want color everything. And it's it's figuring out that marriage of like kind of like this super easy, relaxing moment and these pops of excitement throughout. So we're figuring out how to merge that. Let it be like, now we're painting walls. Now we're doing like really pop color sofas and linen and things like that. But we've kind of gravitated towards it more than anything. Even
I think naturally, but then also the clients are like, okay, great. Let's see some color, more.
And I'm always like,
oh my gosh.
Interesting. So that's a change, right? Because a lot of clients, and I think of the California look, neutral and embracing the colors of the sky and the sea and nature. Is it a real change to see, especially clients there on the West Coast wanting more color?
It's definitely a change. Yeah, it's not normally what came to us, and clients came to us because they wanted, more calming environments that felt really warm and had a lot of texture and feeling in them. And the current group of clients right now, they just still want some of that, but I think we have a new kind of crop of clients and projects that is going in a completely different direction. And it's kind of fascinating to see what we're able to come up with and stretch ourselves.
It's a good thing about also going back to what you were saying, Amy, about just being in California. It's like it's indoor outdoor living. So we also we have to be able, for this example, this is indoor outdoor, like you have to kind of stretch and make sure it's cohesive from the inside to the outside. Right. And just for example, like how those loungers are there, we constantly are trying to make it make sense. So when you open the door, everything is continuous.
Yes.
So it gets interesting with color, because you think about landscaping and things like that. Like, how does that play a part now? And we have olive trees, we have lavender, and we try to bring those colors inside now.
Yes, right. Okay, this looks like a different house, maybe.
Different house. This is in the Flats in Beverly Hills. This is a really fun project, Spanish modern contemporary home, and kind of classic JSN in that we got to play and kind of meld the two, contemporary, vintage, and let the house really sing and shine.
Yeah, we're really lucky because we're big art collectors, and most of our clients, most of our clients are art collectors. So they're always so conscious about having enough walls in their homes. And these particular, like this this Spanish house. Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying with this particular house, there were so many arches throughout the whole house. So it was trying to figure out how to lay art throughout it. So that was a tough thing about this particular house.
It didn't, because it had the the arches, the curved walls, and a lot of windows. So it was hard to find enough places for the art.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then, when you start taking art into consideration, you have to think about how much light is coming in, if the light is going to affect the artwork. You have to tint the windows, for the UV rays from the sun. So we kind of take all of that into consideration.
This was really kind of special, and
this is beautiful. Tell us. Yeah.
They really wanted to just play with seating, and like they weren't afraid to just like, a lot of people live in a space where they feel like everything has to be a pair or a set or has to match. And they were really kind of open and easy to just like lean into things that felt comfortable. And even though these chairs are really beautiful, aesthetically beautiful, they were actually really comfortable.
Things matching. Yeah. Sorry, I think I lost you guys for a second. Tell me a little bit about the hearth. It looks really beautiful. Oh, sorry.
That came together. So first off, the architect behind this home is Standard Architecture. We love Standard. We love all their work. One of the things that they're really known for is the Jenny Kane house that you guys published a while ago.
Yeah.
They also do a lot of work with Theory, the brand, and just, they take really beautiful Spanish homes, they modernize them, they contemporize them, and they came up with the architecture of the hearth, and it's, to us, is stunning, and it really just allows for a beautiful aesthetic and palette for you to kind of layer onto with furniture.
It's beautiful. What a pretty room and what a pretty house.
Yes.
Is this in the same house?
Different home.
Different. Okay.
Another Beverly Hills Flats home that we did, and I can't remember if Standard was the architect on this house.
I shockingly don't remember this one.
I can tell you the address and everything.
Oh, wow.
It's okay.
There's some projects that you really get attached to, or some things happen during an installation that makes you remember the project. And I remember this one specifically because I don't know if there's a shot of it, but right there in the corner off to the right is where you enter, and there's a piano that we had trouble getting in and bringing into the room. So that's why I remember it's there.
What did you do? How did you get it in?
Oh man, they had to take the legs off and kind of disassemble it, and then bring it in that way and then build it back up. which was a little daunting.
This was the colonial style house that you guys painted
Yes.
all white. Oh, this
Yes.
house was not the best brick. So they decided to paint all the brick, because this was a brick home, and they painted it completely white.
Yeah.
The brick outside. Yeah, I do remember this now.
It must be so pretty because it has such a light, beautiful, really pretty quality.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Let's go on. It's a great house. Let's see the next image. Okay, lovely.
Wow.
Yes,
Great.
that's a sofa that we made for the client. Those are 2 vintage chairs. I can't tell you who the artists are in this photo, but I think that's a B&B Italia table.
But
It's nice.
This is also the great thing about Los Angeles, where you get to kind of bring the outside in, and that for us also goes as that plays as like art, and it also plays as color. So that's another way, kind of how we would, early on, how we would talk our clients into understanding color doesn't have to be so physically in the space, because outside you have so much of that there. So there's all that green, there's all that white, there's all that terracotta, that you get to see from across the way. So this is kind of a great way to not have that crazy distraction when you could think about your furniture as well.
Yeah,
I agree. There's a lot to look at here, even though it's soothing, and it's both neutral and interesting to look at.
totally. I wish,
Right.
same house, lower level. I was gonna say, I'm really a big fan of Ken Polk and the work
Yeah.
he does, and all the different colors and all the different directions that he gets to packs into a space, and it's like an explosion. And we're almost the opposite, but I think the clients that we have and the projects that we have now, a lot of them are more Ken-like and what they gravitate toward. So it'll be interesting to see a year from now or so, when we wrap these projects,
The evolution
our style and aesthetic, how it evolves.
I think that's so interesting that you cite Ken as someone whose work is interesting to you, because it is very flamboyant in a way, colorful, rich, sort of theatrical.
Theatrical, I'd say maximalist in a lot of work. In a lot of ways.
Good word.
We're minimalist, and we want only what's necessary in a space.
Yeah.
And there's no room for anything else.
Yeah.
Which can go cold sometimes, but I think we do it well enough.
Yeah, and
that's
when we play with like things that are really important. Like it's like found artifacts. Is it like the great rugs? Is it like just we lean into things like that just kind of that have soul, period, point blank dot, where you don't have to create soul, it's already living. We let it be rugs and artifacts. Those are living things along with art. So that's how we create that warmth.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit, so hospitality, what about, have you dipped your toes into any collaborations on product?
No, and that is one thing that we are itching to get to. We are in love with CB2 and everything that they've done. And so hoping, knock on wood, this is the marble table, by the way, or marble, that we get to do something with CB2 by way of, we like layering, and it may not seem like it, but we do like layering. And if we were to do something with CB2, I can see us doing some, home decor.
Yeah, like accessories.
Yeah.
Like really the add-ons to a room to make those final special touches.
Definitely.
CB2 has been a great partner to us too, and a great sponsor. So, happy to hear you focus in on them. And I would be very excited to see what you do in both spaces, hospitality and collaborations. I think it would be great. Tell me a little bit about how COVID has treated the studio and your own busyness factor these days.
Amy, we are so busy. We're so busy. We are always hiring now. We are blessed to have tons and tons and tons of projects here in California, and then just all across the country. We're busy, and busy on every front, right? It's styling, it's staging, it's design. We have a podcast coming. We have a coffee table book we're working on. We have all these kind of projects.
We've been really, 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 really lucky, and you guys have been nothing but supportive, and we are beyond thrilled
and grateful.
The AD partnership that we did with you guys for the virtual home, we've been so lucky in this kind of turbulent time. Fortunately, we've been really, really lucky.
Well, the talent always wins in the end. And yeah, the virtual home with BIDN was a high point in my career and a high point in a dreary year called COVID. But your space that you did on the roof was so, it transported me so much. And I really thought you should be doing rooftop hospitality and restaurants and gardens, and like a bedroom up there would be amazing. You know,
Yes.
I love that.
It was all there. It was all there.
And shout out to Keia McSwain for inviting us to do that. Love her.
Shout out to Keia McSwain, who's on deck to speak today. I think next, maybe actually.
Yes, awesome.
She's a powerhouse.
She is a powerhouse, and we love her.
Love that.
Yeah, me too. She's changing the world, as are both of you. Your talent is extraordinary. I love seeing all the rooms and having a tour.
Thank
and
you.
It was inspiring.
More to come.
More to come, and I wish you the best. Enjoy your lunch/breakfast.
Yes.
I'm signing off from New York.
Yes.
I love New York, the Actors Fund, Broadway. Someday we're going to go to a show again, you guys, together.
Hurry.
I look forward to it. Thank you for lunch today.
Hope to see you soon.
Big kiss.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
We are making introductions. So, you know, you guys are all big friends of AD. And so, as you know, we're in a visual, physical industry. It's been severely impacted by the pandemic's restrictions on meeting clients, going shopping, visiting work sites. I don't know the last time it was when I touched a fabric. I don't know about you guys. But the restrictions of the last year have opened up a wealth of opportunities for designers to take their practices to the next level online. Today, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how digital design show houses work and how our panelists are making digital design work in every area of their businesses. And as a reminder, all of you guys who are tuning in, please feel free to ask questions in our Q&A feature, and we're going to get to those at the end of our panel. So first up, I'd love to introduce Keia. Keia is a friend of mine, also a huge fan of, maybe a fan too, but a friend of the brand. She is president of the Black Interior Designers Network. She's also principal of Kimberly and Cameron Interiors, which is a luxury interior design firm working on the East and the West Coasts, and everywhere in between too. In 2017, she became the president of the BIDN, and it's there in her role that she works with strategic partners to elevate the work of designers of color nationwide. When it comes to her own interiors projects, the self-taught luxury designer creates spaces that are both fully functional, unique to the client, and aesthetically pleasing, often incorporating eye-popping color and layers of texture. Welcome, Keia.
Thanks for having me.
And next we have Tavia Frobes and Monet Masters. They are principal designers and co-owners of Frobes Masters, a nationally acclaimed luxury interior design studio that helps clients design luxurious interior spaces. A beautiful partnership of diverse and equally talented interior designers, they provide design services throughout the US. Based in Atlanta and with decades of combined experience, they collaborate with clients to transform their spaces into compelling masterpieces. Clients come to Tavia and Monet to solve unique design challenges and to find what they desire but cannot articulate, to bring their vision into glorious and colorful detail. Welcome.
Hey, wonderful. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Let's dive right in. So everybody who's on this call, all our attendees today have been looking at really beautiful interiors, which, as you know, are very important to the business that we're all in. However, what really moves the needle are business decisions. So we're going to be speaking a little bit today about the digital landscape, how digital first has really transformed our business over the last year and a half. So let's start with the BIDN Iconic Home Show House. So we launched that last year with the network and AD. Keia, you designed the primary bedroom. Tavia and Monet, you designed the cabana guest room. All these rooms are beautiful. People can still check it out. I believe it's still live. And you know, I've spoken to a lot of people, a lot of friends who are not in the industry, and they say, like, look, it's a virtual show house. How difficult could it be? You throw up a wall here, you add a wall there, throw in a window. But the four of us know that it was not that easy. So there's a lot of design challenges when designing online. So Keia, why don't you start us off? Why don't you tell us about the process of designing the primary bedroom and some of the creative challenges that you hit?
Absolutely. So it was wonderful being able to design the primary bedroom in the space. Some of the complexities of designing the space was to be completely blind to what other designers were creating, right? My neighboring designer, Inea White, designed the primary bath. And I think one of the most exciting parts of designing the primary bedroom was to be able to design it blindly and us be able to make these spaces cohesive, right? And blend perfectly with one another by being able to create freely. You know, we didn't have any real rules on what the designed space was supposed to look like, right? What the room was supposed to say. We just wanted to design what we wanted to design. So that was a huge pro. Other than time, right? And not being able to physically hug the space, this was new, right? So being in an uncomfortable situation can only bring out the best in design. But I felt like designing a digital space without having any real feel of the space was, to me, maybe one of the biggest challenges.
What were some of your favorite moments, maybe within your room or, you know, throughout the house at large?
Seeing everybody else's space, seeing that amazing cabana that Tavia and Monet created, seeing the vision come to life behind these spaces, you know, the timeline in which everybody created these spaces. And like I said, how each room just bled seamlessly into one another. You know, that was one of my absolute favorite points of creating the show house.
Tavia, the same question for you. So when you're working on the cabana, what were some of the creative challenges that you ran into?
Creatively, it was just fun. It was a fun project to work on, and to just be in a space where you're just imagining the possibilities, because, well, at the same time, there's a challenge of not actually installing it and not actually being able to touch the space, but it being purely imaginative. It also still had to function. So we had some grand ideas, and then we were asked, well, then how does it get installed? Also, because it still has to be possible to create. So with some of our wild dreamings of this like floating bed and so on, we had to come up with the specifications of how that was going to be installed. So a lot of the challenges were a part of the fun in the space as well, just being able to dream that up. And not seeing other spaces at the same time was a little difficult, wondering if we're going to have a space that would flow well with the exterior and so on. But somehow it just all came together, and it was a pure creative achievement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Monet, did you feel the same way? Did you have any particular interesting moments that you liked?
Honestly, my favorite moment was the very first Zoom call and seeing all of the Black interior designers that were going to be represented in this house. I think I cried, and I was extremely excited and honored to be amongst them. And in regards to designing, absolutely, when we knew it was going to be a virtual show house, we knew that price was no matter, because we didn't have to purchase that. We didn't have to ask vendors if we could borrow this, that, and the other. So using a $10,000 chair was nothing. I think that was my favorite part, is being able to explore different vendors and product that we otherwise probably couldn't have. And then also being able to design a room so creative that I don't think we've come across a client that would be so bold to.
We're going to get into the clients specifically, but that's such a great point, that having that creative license to just do what you do best. And sometimes we're roped in by that, by the client's expectations. So we are going to talk about that, because clients can be really pesky. But next, you know, the changes in the way we're all living, they're really evident right now. They're impacting the design world. Some of the client requests I've been hearing about are screen-free spaces, because we're so tired of living within these little squares. A lot of indoor-outdoor living, you know, maintaining that balance of indoor-outdoor living, and a lot of brighter interiors, because we're really tired of neutral spaces. So Keia, I'm wondering if, as a result of the way we're living largely online, like, has your aesthetic changed at all over the last year? Or maybe you've remained the same. How has it changed or not changed for you?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think you're living if you remain the same. For me, I'm constantly evolving, and so is my aesthetic, so is my taste, so is my everything in regards to design. Over the last year, I've been able to refine and research and just study more, make myself available to new vendors, like Monet said, that I otherwise would not have been, interested in, or would not have been a resource to me, right? And so over the past year, it's always just really been about refining, right? Refining and researching. And so I'm finding that more clients and people are interested in color, right? As you just stated, right? They're wanting to kind of move away from more neutrals and get into more color, into more layers and more textures. And it's right up my alley.
How about you, Tavia? Has your aesthetic changed at all? Have clients been requesting things differently than usual?
We've gotten a few interesting requests for more personal spaces, because everyone's realizing their homes are their sanctuaries. They're not built for your guests. They're not built for the outside world, and you're supposed to just enjoy that space. We always encourage clients to express their own personalities. We enjoy designing different types of spaces, different genres, all kinds of categories. So that's always been a part of our model, but now people are really, really ready to embrace themselves, their quirks, their personalities. I think we designed a room recently that was dedicated to Yoda. The first room in the house, there's a portrait of Yoda, and
That's cute.
And it's a lot of fun and encouraging people to really express themselves. Their home is for you. But with the stranger rooms, like meditation spaces, home gyms, home theaters, everything that has to do with like really enjoying your home. Yeah.
So one thing I really love about what I get to do at AD Pro is talking about business and small business, because I think if people get empowered around how to manage their money, manage their clients, take care of billing, all that stuff, they will be set up in a better place to succeed. That, as we were talking about earlier, it's not just about color choice and fabrics and the glamorous, pretty aspect of it. It really is, how do you like get down to brass tacks and design while also floating your business? So speaking of that, we're talking about clients, talking about money. How do you not leave money on the table with a client, especially when previous to the pandemic, we were dealing with people one-on-one? I know for me, it's easier to sell myself, on an interview or on a date, whatever, if I'm there in person. So online, how do you guys manage that? How do you sell your services when you're not in person? I pose it to everybody, whoever would like to take that one, because I'm sure we're all struggling with it.
I think it's all about, refining. I keep emphasizing refining because, myself, Tavia, and Monet, we have these conversations and we're really just all experimenting our way through this, trying to figure out what works best for our businesses, right? So being as though we've kind of merged into this digital world, this virtual world, it is really important that we figure out what digital practices work best, right? What softwares should we convert over to? Is this software best for us, right? What software is better in comparison to this one? What softwares make what easier for your team? So there are so many levels to the complexities of the business end of virtual design and just design in general. Whereas I feel as though it being virtual poses the need for much more time to be invested, right? So researching, refining, and kind of sitting with your business style and your business practices is very important. And getting a coach, talking to other designers, figuring out, how they're pricing, how they're maneuvering this time, because we're all, at a place where we have different needs, right? Different requirements, but everybody's going through the same thing. Monet tells me that all the time. You're not the only one. So yeah.
But you know what, to that point, in reference to not leaving money on the table, I find that in recent months, we've introduced a few new softwares in our process, and just in helping with clear communication with the client so that the expectation is always clear. And I find that clients really respect that. They may hate the software because it causes them to do more work, but they really respect that and now trust you even more because they know you're organized. They know that you are basically just trying to keep them updated with what's going on and so forth. And I think with that being said, they then trust you with more money, or trust you to fulfill the proposal.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would also add to what Keia was saying in the beginning, but paring down your services and making sure that the offerings are very clear. So an e-design service is an e-design service. It's different than designing remotely, which is different than doing new construction or renovation kind of thing. So having the client have clear expectations on what they are signing up for and understand the procedure. So as much information that you could put out there as possible, whether it's on your website or an onboarding document to state that, you know, these are the deliverables for this service and this is what you get at what time. And you spend some time, we took some time away from our work and focused on the business and really talked about what services worked for us, what didn't, and how we're going to manage each one. And also to figure out new softwares to use. And even made a change to a bookkeeping firm that only works with interior designers. So you have the expertise of pretty much a financial advisor, as well as a purchasing manager, and the list goes on into what their services are. But it really takes the weight off of us because our jobs are 10% design and 90% everything else: logistics, bookkeeping.
I remember when it used to be 80-20. It's just like that 20 is smaller and smaller as the years go on.
But finding some time to like get back that time to design and explore new products and so on. But if you can pare down and really take time just to talk about your business offerings and what that means for you, you'll thank yourself later.
Keia, is your split somewhere?
Sorry, Katie. I wanted to harp on what Tavia said. So the reality of it is, right, the structure remains the same. The softwares may change here and there, but everybody's working based on that client. You know, you may have your preferences. You know, you might have this particular client that you really want to work with, that you really want it to go well for. So you may switch up something just a little bit here, but your structure remains the same. It's the only way, in my opinion, you'll be really successful in building your brand and your business.
Do you have a similar split, 10 and 90, 10% design, 90% to what Tavia said?
Sometimes I feel like it's 100% business, and I might design in my dreams at night or something. I don't know. It's like, it's so much that goes into the business portion of it, so that when you're sourcing and when you're being creative and you're choosing textiles and whatever, you don't have to be thinking about numbers in the back of your head, or, you know, taxes or bookkeeping, or whether someone's reached out to the client, or all of these things matter. And so once you've found a compartment for them and someone to handle them, whether it's you or someone on your team, I think you are much, much, much more capable of being creatively free.
Kind of like freeing up that brain power.
Absolutely.
I want to circle back to something Monet mentioned about digital design services. So I know you guys are working with Adair Curtis, right? Maybe you can explain that relationship and what kind of service that provides to your clients.
Sure. So at one point in time, we were offering e-design services strictly through Monet Masters, and then decided that our major clientele, or our full service clientele, was increasing, and so we had to kind of step down from that service. But we were also trying to onboard new junior designers, and so thought that this was a great opportunity to keep them busy in the hours that we didn't have anything for them, or also allowing them to just practice their craft and their talent. So we reached out to Adair Curtis to form a relationship, and they have 3 different tiers that they would basically submit the design firm under based on a plethora of things. So they put us under the celebrity status, which those tiers also equate to how much you're going to be charged for your e-design service. But the great thing about it is we have control in what we take on and what we don't. So we can decide that we're only going to take on 2 of these projects a month, or if we're going to take on more, depending upon how busy we are. But it allows us to essentially have a classroom for our junior designers to practice their craft, as I mentioned. I mean, obviously they are vetted and they are talented and are capable because we trust them to kind of handle the service. But then also we're building a great relationship with Decorous. They've been so pivotal in our career in so many ways. So it's just been a win-win, but a great outlet and resource for the company and for our growth.
So your junior designers then will take on projects that you sort of have vetted through Decorous, and they do it under your guidance. Is that how it works?
Absolutely. And obviously, you know, we have 1 or 2 days a week, depending upon the amount of projects going on. We have 1 or 2 days a week where we sit down as a team and go over all the designs. Whomever is the lead designer on that project, we are collaborating at that time and filtering through, asking questions, playing devil advocate, and just like trying to produce the best design. And we still do that with our Decorous projects. We're still stepping in and making sure that it's something that we think that the client is going to love, and then also something that we want to represent us.
Interesting. So it's kind of a way for you to expand too, because you get to take on more, but within a kind of a scale that is suitable, rather than taking on too much and opening the floodgates.
Absolutely, and they handle all the communication.
Right.
So we're not talking with the client directly.
That's nice.
We'll just get an email from the project manager and say, oh, they want another option for this. So it's easy money.
That's great. I love easy money. I need to figure out a way to do that. I have no design sense.
That's everyone's goal.
Smart, not hard. Okay.
Keia, how is it working for you? Are you like at a hybrid now? Are you all in real time? Are you doing things online? What does your practice look like these days?
I am doing more full service, but it's starting out virtual and digital, of course. I get more time, like Monet and Tavia, to really just dive in and delegate to team members. For me, for some odd reason, I don't get the opportunity to dictate, you know, how clients reach out most often. I'm still in the process of being bullied sometimes. I have refined my process and somewhat have rules in place for communication, but some kind of way, you know, sometimes they get nervous or sometimes they want to talk, and I don't know, I break the rules sometimes, but you know, I'm able to reiterate based on what I said a few minutes ago. Some clients, you know, you bend your rules a little bit, you break your rules, but the structure remains the same. So while Monet and Tavia have already solidified and figured out, right, do not call us, do not text us, I'm still in the phase where I'm taking calls here and there, and I'm taking texts here and there.
It's a great point.
We definitely take the calls. And Keia, I would say that speaks to, and I'm pretty sure you know this, but that speaks to how comfortable and how vetted the clients are to you. Had you tried to bring in an assistant or another designer, they probably would not have it, you know, that type of client. But I mean, I was just on a call for 2 hours yesterday explaining a service to a client that she had paid for in full and still was completely in the dark. So like we get those calls too. I think Tavia and I spend a lot of time planning and kind of picking out our process to make sure that we're doing everything that we can, but we're learning too after taking our second like business retreat to kind of just hone in and talk amongst ourselves. We're learning that we also need to take time to implement those things. You know, we talk about it and we say this is the process that we want, but you have to take the time to set up your systems and set up your documents to make sure that that's clear, or else you're just going to revert right back to what you're doing before.
Is it any easier for you all to set boundaries with clients, being that we're now more digital, or do they feel like they have nonstop access to you because they have your phone number or they have your email? Is it any easier, you know, versus just having an in-person client meeting and things are discussed in person, then you let it go? Or have they been taking more advantage lately because we are expected to be accessible?
I feel like we also schedule like our follow-up calls after they receive something, so they know that they have that time to express themselves at that time. So we've already blocked off 1 hour or, you know, that time point after they've gotten this particular document. Okay, let's talk about it tomorrow after you've gotten a chance to digest it and really think about it. So instead of getting their immediate like visceral reaction to something, it allows them 24 hours to think about why they like and why they dislike. And then we can construct a conversation the next day. But it's already scheduled at the time, so they're not inclined to just jump on the phone essentially.
And it's extremely helpful to have someone who can communicate that, right? A few years ago, they were calling them dummy assistants, where they actually didn't exist, but you were listing someone else's name in an email and saying, okay, it's you emailing them. They'll get back to you within 48 hours, right? So now, you know, I've got a design assistant who, you know, who says to me, well, I talked to her and she said that she wants you to call her today, but I told her that she has to fill in this block. She's got to, you know, set this time aside because you need this much time. And so sometimes people don't care that there is really a structure and an order in which they should communicate with a designer, because they don't feel like design is necessary. They still see this as, you know, hey, you're just a designer. You should be able to talk to me whenever I'm available. I'm actually the one that's in an office, right? So the reality of it is, you've got some people, no matter how much they're willing to spend on investing in their homes or working with you, they just don't see interior design as necessary.
I absolutely agree. Sorry, Katie.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the higher the budget, the more you're going to deal with a unique client. They get.
That's a really good way to put it.
They get
Unique is euphemism for something.
they get a lot more unique the higher the dollar for the project. So yes, I just wanted to say that I absolutely agree with what he is saying. Yes.
Because if I'm spending my money with you, you need to be up at 4 a.m. to answer my text about which color blue we're gonna use for the sunroom. And that's that on that, because I paid you all this money.
And you know what's so crazy? Tavia, we're just so great together, because most times if I'm the one to see that email first and I'm responding, I just simply hand the computer to Tavia. Filters it. When I get it back, I may add in a few more things, but she sometimes is my buffer. But a client and mentor did say to us one day, if you're doing a favor for anyone, if you are being inconvenienced for them, by all means, it's your client, rise to the occasion, but let them know you're doing it. So, hey, it's 4 a.m. I actually got in late last night, but what can I help you with? Like, I need you to know that this is inconvenient for me, and I'm doing you a favor. Like, let that be known.
That is such a good tip, and it's like a willingness to do it, but not without, acknowledging the fact that I'm going out of my way for you. To kind of remind the client that you are going above and beyond what you've been hired to do. It's a really good tip. Speaking of clients, and speaking of digital, I'm wondering if there's anything you guys miss particularly about being in person. Is it trade show? Is it shopping? I think by this point, a lot of us have been, we're out and about a little bit more than we were 6 months ago. But is there anything that you miss from like our past lives from 2019 that is hard to recreate online?
Trade shows.
Yeah.
I think we were supposed to be at the Architectural Digest show in March, and everything shut down right then. And it was so heartbreaking, and then realizing, okay, we can't even go to ADAC, we can't go to America's Mart, and all places that we went to source. And it forced us, not forced, but us to build our own library and have things mailed in and really focus on getting some stuff in our office that we can feel and touch that we didn't have before, because the convenience of just running out to do that. But
I'll say that there's nothing like a face-to-face, and the math does not count. There's nothing like a face-to-face. You can read the bones, you can read the muscles that are activated in the face, and how you're interacting and how you're affecting another person. I in particular miss hugging people. I love the interaction, and you can't connect with your vendors and clients the same way. And so we've improvised, of course, but that's what I miss most, honestly.
Yeah. The hugs.
Hugs, I get that. What about you, Keia? Is there anything that you miss?
I miss hugging too. I miss hugging a lot. But I miss the surety in being able to tell my clients how something feels, right? How something sits, that I've touched it, that I've put hands on it, right? And so a lot of what we've been doing over the past 6-7 months is really just kind of going based on, the quality, the past quality of items that we've ordered from those particular vendors, or, based on reviews, what designers have used this, if it's brand new, we're just kind of, on a hope and a prayer. But hugging, touching things in person for sure, and just experiencing, others, right? Being inspired by others. One of my favorite parts of going to trade shows is being inspired by the fashion that the other designers are wearing. I miss all of these things. So I'm excited to get back into the world and hug people again, hug pieces and people again.
So speaking of others and new people, I know Tavia and Monet, you have expanded your firm. I saw this on Instagram recently. You've added a new teammate, somebody to hug virtually for now. How is that? Was it difficult to hire somebody remotely? What was that process like, hiring somebody in a digital world?
We actually, so when we started, it was a kind of hybrid model where worked from home and some in-person meetings as we could, as often as we could do. But we did hire her in person, but the job was more remote after. That process was interesting because she was very persistent and
over a few months.
Yes. And we were so bogged down with everything that was going on with the pandemic and just this utter confusion at the moment. And so one of the first things about her was that she was persistent and almost insisted. So yeah, we got bullied. And, and she's been working out great since.
She's amazing. And I mean, on the topic of the pandemic, we actually met her in a showroom. She specializes in luxury kitchen and bath, and we met her in a showroom when we were her clients. We were in there with a client, and she unfortunately, but fortunately, got let go, and then reached out to us. So it was truly the pandemic that brought us together. And like Tavia said, she's been absolutely wonderful since. But it never fails. It's always those very difficult moments that, in the end, you still win, you still grow, and you still profit.
Yeah, persistence pays off too. So I'm wondering, we have a lot of opportunities that have been created. Obviously, Decorist is certainly one of them that is digital, will remain digital. I'm wondering if Keia, if you have some strategic changes that you've made specifically to capitalize on the opportunities that have come up this year. Maybe there's different ways you've run the business. I know we're actually getting a lot of questions in the chat about software, which we'll get into later. But I'm wondering if there's certain strategies that you've developed just to serve your business better.
Oh, absolutely. I've gone from charging hourly to charging, a set fee to charging on a retainer basis, which has been most beneficial. It is ultimately what everyone needs to do in their business, in my opinion. Refine so that you do not leave money on the table. Figure out, what was working well and what was not working when you were charging hourly, or when you were charging per square foot, when you were charging a set fee versus charging, retainer basis. I speak to leads often who might not become clients, but it's my goal, and my job to educate them based on whether or not an interior designer may be a good fit for them. So changing how we price, how we charge has been number one in terms of maneuvering, right? And in this virtual age, maneuvering with being in one place and working three projects in 3 different corners of the country, it has been priority for me.
Monet, same question for you. Are there certain strategies that you've adopted? Maybe there's some that Keia just mentioned.
Yes, I'll start out.
Last year.
Yeah, I'll start out by saying you've invited everyone to email you after the panel discussion and ask you how to pitch a retainer option to clients, including us. Just FYI. And in terms of, I guess, just filtering and changing our procedure.
You're why I made that decision. It's why I made that decision. And I'm like, oh, they are so smart because this is working out. It's working, just so you know.
I just told you, we come up with great ideas all the time, but we just don't apply them. But I think one thing that we've done is just kind of up our communication through the softwares that we're using. I think it puts our clients on a regimen because before we were spending time emailing clients every Monday to give them like an update, let them know, just to touch base with them and let them know that we were actively working on their project, even if it was the exact same update as the previous week. And it was taking our entire Monday to do that.
Wow.
And so now we use Basecamp, and it allows you to just make updates as the week or as the days are going on. Clients will get a notification and they can check in, they can respond. We can respond whenever, but it's just active communication away from our phones and our emails, because we're getting an influx of vendors and opportunities, and it'd be nice. It's nice to essentially have those things organized now, so clients aren't getting lost in the email. That would be one of the absolute biggest things. I would say. Oh, and then the accounting.
Yeah,
we're literally paying the exact same amount for a new accounting firm to do 5 times more than what our previous bookkeeper was doing for the same amount of money. It's like it's just pure joy and sadness at the same time. But that's the other thing I would say.
and
So
changing the structure.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
Changing our fee structure from being flat fee, like just not a good idea at all. So either hourly or retainer, but we've gone to hourly.
Gotcha. We have so many questions from people, so I want to get into those because some of them are really great. We have a room full of journalists, I think, here.
Oh.
So the first one is from Naya Reed. Naya Reed, if I'm not destroying your name, Naya Reed Gonzalez. They ask, what are good ways to gain exposure if you're starting out your business digitally? So some good ways to gain exposure if you're starting out digitally.
Absolutely, social media. We have clients from all over the world, and they're referencing what we posted online. And oh, can I have this? You posted it last week. No one cares about your website anymore, apparently.
Yeah.
I think they check into the website to make sure you're legit and you cared enough and you're professional, which you should have. But ultimately, it's your social media account. So no personal pictures. Don't mix the two. You should definitely have a professional page and a business page, and just bombard your audience with design, even if it's just ideas that you like. Explain why you like them, because it's all indication that you know what you're talking about and you have an eye.
That's a great point. Speaking from like my side of the table, whenever we're reaching out to designers to get them to quote on stories or see if they're available to chat, we first look on Instagram often. And we did a story recently on, I think the title was, "Is the website dead?" Basically, do people even use it? And I would suggest too, make sure in your any social media accounts you have your contact information. Like, give us an email, throw us a bone, because people do try to reach out in that way. That's great. So we have another question. Stephanie Van Luschik, again, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. Stephanie asks, you mentioned working with a business development company that brings in projects that your junior designers can work on. What was the name of the company? I think that was Decorist that we're discussing. Yeah, Decorist. DECORIST. Next question from Menaz. Menaz Malik asks, what software or softwares can you recommend to streamline services offered virtually? And are there any software that you consider to be game changers?
Basecamp.
Which one?
Basecamp. It's a project management software. There are others. There's Basecamp, there's Monday, there's Trello. We use Basecamp. Each client has their own board. And so if you're offering a service digitally, that client has a board. You upload their design presentation. They can comment directly onto that upload and keep all communication in one space so that you're not all over the place. And also create schedules for them. They can add things to the schedule. You can chat with your team on the side, send email messages, and create checklists for the procedure. So pretty easy.
Got it.
And my top 3 softwares are Trello, Dubsado, and StyleRow.
Mm-hmm.
What was the second one?
Trello, Dubsado, and StyleRow.
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 Ooh, they're all ended in O's, aren't they?
We have another question. We have so many people are so curious. This one is very nosy, but I love this question. Go, Leah. Leah asks, please tell us how your retainer system is set up. And we get a little smile emoji. I love that. Are we willing to share that?
So, based on a conversation that I had with Tavia and Monet, I think you, Monet, said that you guys are working on some things based on how much time you've estimated that a space will take you to complete, right? So took us a little time, and we're still working that out, but I can estimate how much time it'll take me to complete, you know, a primary bathroom or a primary bedroom, you know, based on the SOW or whatever the case may be, right? And so I set a flat fee for a retainer, and that retainer number, that number is based on a certain amount of hours, right? 20 hours for this amount, right? If we do 25 hours, then once we bill out again, we bill you out for those additional 5 hours at our hourly rate. So the hourly rate is only implemented if we exceed what those retainer hours are for that particular space. And so it works out. And then if we do under those hours, right, then that time is to be dedicated elsewhere. There's no refunds. There's none of that business happening. These are just hours that are dedicated because, like you said, we talked about this too. They're going to work you elsewhere. Yep. They're going to find something that they want to utilize your time for that might not have been planned for, right? So instead of us saying, okay, that's fine, it's going to cost you more, we found a nice way to say, absolutely, you've got 5 additional hours that have not been utilized, so we can implement those here. And they're like, yay, we won, when in actuality, you've already paid for it.
You paid, yeah.
So that's how it works, Leah. Because I know Leah is also, I believe, billing hourly.
Got it. So we have another question from JD Moran. This is really interesting. What considerations do you have when hiring team members who don't have a typical interior design education or background? So what considerations do you have? People may not necessarily come to you with the skills that, you know, they might have gotten in design school or they might have gotten from running their own practice. Like, how do you guys manage that? I think that's for the whole group.
This is awesome because I was just talking to one of my team members about her strong point. Her strong point is software. It is training. It is setting up. She can maneuver and work any software you throw at her. And so she should be training the industry on software and setting it up for them, setting up their templates. So these things that we're referring to, the communication, right? The emails that are automatically sent out, what the emails state, all of these things, she should be doing that, right? So when people come in, I've just hired on a new design assistant who's amazing. We're like gooing and gawing over the smallest things, right? But she's on point. Well, it in my opinion, it takes a good leader and a knowledgeable person to be able to say, you might not be a designer or you might not, you know, be my business point, but you work well here. Yeah. So figuring out what you can afford to miss out on is really important, right? I just brought you on my team. You're really good on the admin side, but you can't source a light to save your life. So I'll never ask you to do that, but I will make sure that you have everything that you need for the business portion of this, so that not only can you help my business thrive, but when you get to the point to where you're wanting to begin your own business, that part, you're zooming through it, right?
Yeah.
So then you know, hey, I might need to hire someone to source for me because the business portion is my thing. So the more you, I guess, dig below surface level on what you need and what people are good at, that enables them to figure out what it is they're good at and what it is they need from someone else.
Yeah, that's the hallmark of a great manager or a great leader, right? Identifying what characteristics somebody brings to their job and what their weaknesses are, and not punishing them for their weaknesses, but rather how can we expand on the things you do well. Some people just want to be in the industry, right? Like even if we don't have the talent for, I mean, I'm one of them. Like I know what I like, but I couldn't source a light to save my life either. But I found an area where I could be close to it without actually doing it.
Exactly. It's knowing. People don't oftentimes like to consider the things that they're not good at.
Yeah.
We prefer to just boast in what we are good at. But what happens is you're now in a position where you need to do a lot of different things because your senior designer is wearing a lot of different hats. So to Keia's point, you have to know what your strengths are, and lead with that. You just have to know that information. How can you help? We get people in our DM and emails all the time asking, "Are you hiring?" And now I feel like no one submits a portfolio anymore or a cover letter. So at least give me a bullet point of what you're really good at and how you can assist our company. And I'll end with this. Tavia and myself, we came together expecting for the other to be like the other. When we merged our companies, we had no idea how to merge. We just knew that we needed help. And it is not until we sat down and our mentor told us that you are really strong in this area and you fell horribly in this area and vice versa. It's not until the point that we realize, oh wow, where you're strong, I'm actually weak. Let's stay in
Right.
Let me stay in my department and you stay in yours. And that's when the business really started to thrive because we were just more proactive.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like puzzle pieces coming together. We don't all have to have the same positive attributes. In fact, what kind of world would we live in if we all had the same strengths and the same weaknesses? It'd be really boring. Exactly. This is a great question. This is from Waria Williams. They ask, what would you say is the one, capitalized one, the singular project that really brought an influx of new projects coming in? Is there one in particular that maybe you can point to?
Because you never know. That's hard because you never get the backstory as to why someone inquires your services. It's more so like, I saw you here.
Yeah.
But as of late, I would say that a lot of people have been seeing us in AD for the Rising Star, and we've heard a few people mention that.
That's great. I love to hear that. And what about you, Keia? Is there one in particular?
Yeah, I think what was important for me is seeing an influx of clients who were not Black. This happened for me after the Wall Street Journal article where my show house in a showroom was featured. We really had an influx of clientele who specified that they were, they were looking for Black interior designers and that they wanted to invest in our businesses. So I would say that was the peak for me. Like you said, Monet, it's hard to tell the backstory, but we try to get as much information as we can when they reach out.
That's great. So the next question is from, let's see, Kenisa Alberto. They ask, how did you expand and grow your business in the first few years? Any tips or insights? It's a great question, Kenisa.
Ooh, asking questions, Kenisa. asking all the designers around you, asking people that you feel comfortable with asking, of course, reading, researching as much as possible, but really just immersing yourself in networking with other designers to figure out their ways of operating. I remember when my mentor first passed, I went to Tiffany Brooks and I said, okay, there are questions that I have for, you know, designers. What do I do? And she looked at me and she said, girl, Google. Google is your friend. And I was like, a light bulb had gone off, but Google has always been there. So I would say definitely Google and just asking as many questions as you possibly can. Not everything will work for your business, but you'll be able to pick and choose what works best for you.
And try different things. If something fails, don't be dejected by it. Just try something else.
Yep.
Fail forward.
I think in the first year, almost after every project, we kind of looked at ourselves and was like, okay, how can we make that better? And so just looking back at your process and your way of doing things and questioning it. Can you tighten it up? Can you do it better next time? Can it be done faster? Should you use a different vendor?
And don't be afraid to fail, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's permanent. So we have a question from Leslie Martin. Leslie asks, I would love to hear your software management recommendations for a single designer firm, and or who might come alongside to help establish these best practices. For example, you mentioned a design business coach. So we're looking for software management recommendations, but specifically for a designer working on their own.
Now, Leslie, that is determined solely on what you know you can afford. You know, you said you're a single design firm. I don't know if you're ready for PR, but I would definitely suggest you reaching out to someone, or if you'd like to leave your information, I can have someone reach out to you to help you set up your software management, to help you set up templates. That way you're not worried about any of those things. Your software is working that stuff out for you, but I would start there. What do you guys think?
I guess I would use the same softwares as we're using. I guess you just wouldn't be using them to the magnitude that we're using, but I think that you could still use the softwares that we mentioned. A business manager would be a great investment. I remember at the Black Interior Designers Network, the last that we attended, Corey Jenkins was suggesting that was the very first thing that he invested in, even before an assistant. And so, you know, maybe it might be I'm pretty sure there's different tiers that you could research, maybe starting with a smaller company, but maybe start there.
And also the bookkeeper, I don't think the fees are exorbitant. So if you have someone that's going to be taking care of that and also doing your purchasing, that frees up your time to create new designs and also onboard new clients. So essentially the service pays for itself, and you can bill that back to the client that time.
So we have time for one more question. This is a great one, especially for those of us who are looking for mentors. So Jack Flanagan asks, how did you find a mentor in the industry? And I know, Katie, you have a very special story around that, specifically around the network, and also you got your start. So if you'd like to share about that, I can pitch it to you.
Yeah, Jack, don't make me cry. So I found my mentor by positioning myself and being persistent, as Monet and Tavia's new design assistant or junior designer was. I was networking at an ASID event, met Kim Ward, and, you know, remained very persistent. I knew what I wanted. I was hungry. I knew I couldn't afford to go back to school for interior design, but I knew I had an eye. And so I was just persistent, and I did whatever I needed to do to learn and to retain. And so that is why I am where I am today.
And Monet and Tavia, do you have any advice how to find a mentor?
My mentor found me. I was working doing event design, and she came up to me then, and we have been essentially together for over a decade, and she's become our mentor, mainly in business and critiquing designs, I would say.
And I would say that you never know who you're talking to, who's going to be your mentor, who's going to be your next client. I would say that aside from Miley Teal, our mentor, a lot of our clients have become mentors. these are people who are established and able to afford interior design services. So they have a lot to offer. And I'm very fortunate to have so many. But I would just say, you never know who's going to be your mentor. And so always put your best foot forward and represent yourself in a way that would attract someone who would want to invest that time.
What a nice note to end on. We are right at 2 o'clock. Thank you, girls, for being here today. I love working with all of you, and there's just so many great insights here. I hope everybody can chat, continue to use the chat. You can connect and network with people there, speaking to our networking opportunities. And thank you all. I really appreciate your time, and I will let everybody go to our next session.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Welcome, everybody, to our virtual get-together. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Mayor Russ, the West Coast editor of Architectural Digest, and it is my great pleasure today to speak with my old friend, Nate Berkus. We've worked together for many years. Nate, you all know, has been a force on the scene almost since he founded his firm at the age of 24, a mere, what, Nate, 8 years ago, was that, 10 years ago?
And the miracles of dermatology, but we can talk about that later.
Nate and I have both been in hair and makeup. I've been for weeks getting everything together for this conversation. And our plan is to peel back the veil of fabulousness that surrounds the world of interior design and have a very frank conversation about the realities of succeeding in our business and some of the current obstacles, some of the traditional obstacles. And we hope to make it a very substantive conversation. And we encourage you to leave questions. We'll have time at the end for questions from the audience. But to get started, welcome, Nate.
Thank you.
Can you sketch us a picture of your business 2021, the various facets of your business, and give us an idea, sort of pie chart wise, how much attention you give to each facet, how much time and energy is devoted to these various sections of your work?
Sure. So the way that my company is structured is actually it's split into two different companies. Nate Berkus Associates, which is our design firm with about 20 employees between Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago, which is our main office. And Nate Berkus Entertainment, which has a team of people based in the Chicago office that work on television makeovers, sourcing, product, and product design, all internal. And then there's the sort of attached company of Brillstein Entertainment Partners in Los Angeles and New York that is my management, who deals with film production, all endorsement deals, everything from paid Instagram posts to new television projects that I'm up for. So it's a multi-pronged business with me, obviously, as sort of creative director and lead on everything. But I would say the design firm I spend about 35% of time on, and about 65% on TV and product and endorsement work.
Amazing. I'm going to roll it back, since I know many of the people joining us today are younger designers starting out. And can you take us back to when you started the firm? I'm curious about the decisions that you made, early milestones in your career, and especially, you know, the best decisions that you made when you were starting out and some of the worst.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll set the scene for you. Basically, I'm 23. I've worked for a regional auction house in Chicago for about a year, and I was running the series of monthly sort of marketplace or junk sales, essentially. And so in my role at the auction house, I just found myself working 60 hours a week, organizing all of the stuff that didn't make it into the big sales. So the paintings that weren't as fine, the old Baker furniture from the 60s that came with the silver that made it in the finer sales. And as part of that, I ended up going to people's homes to help them or to help me sell some of my better things, saying, you know, if you move these things around, you could do a really beautiful break front on this wall. And I have one coming up in next month's auction. So come by and see it during the exhibition. And I think the best decision that I've ever made for myself was choosing to work for myself. And over the last 25 years of owning and running my firm, I've had a lot of really amazing people stay. Lauren Buxbaum-Gordon, my partner in the firm, has been there almost 18 years now. And I've also had really wonderful people leave. And I've always respected that. I've respected either way. My biggest accomplishment as a business person, as a creative, as a designer, has probably been to delegate. I don't think it would have been possible for me to build a business that like the one that I have without really learning to trust other people and also to view other people very honestly and openly, which means, you know, let people be bad at certain things, and that's fine. You can still work here. It's, you know, not everybody's good at everything. And so I've created and tried to craft an environment that really honors the people that are a part of it. So I'm most proud of the team of people that work with me. It's more internal than it is external. In terms of some of the worst decisions that I've made, I think every designer or decorator has the same story, but you know, I've gone for those projects that I thought would be very, very profitable, even though I sensed that the client was really difficult. Obviously, no surprise to anybody, always a disaster, always a terrible time suck, always a horrible decision to go against your inner voice. When the dynamic feels pained or challenged from the beginning, there's no good reason to take the job. I've also been very savvy from a marketing and PR standpoint since the very beginning, which I would list as a positive. I cultivated relationships with everybody that was in the media, starting with my friend Barry Liner, who's been my friend for 30 years now, who wrote for the Chicago Tribune back in the day. So the press was this was obviously pre-social media, pre-internet, really. The press was really instrumental in helping me build what I wanted to build.
Okay. And if you had to do things differently, are there things that you would have gotten into earlier, later? You know, give us some idea of, you know, the wisdom of looking back over a few decades of having done this.
You know, I think let me think of what I would do differently. I can honestly tell you that I did my best. You know, I really do believe that. I don't look back with any regrets on anything, even the mistakes that I've made. I do think that you know, one thing, especially for young designers, that they need to know is that there's always somebody out there more sophisticated, more well-read, better educated than you. No matter where you've gone to school, no matter how important your business is, or how much money you're making. And I wish that I would have gone to design school. I wish I would have known as a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old that I should have been at RISD or Parsons or the New School, or, you know, a place where I could have studied the history of decorative arts and drawing and painting and furniture and all of those things. In the end, it worked out for me because I'm such a voracious reader and an avid traveler. But when young designers always ask me, what should I do? How should I break into this business? I say now, 25 years into the game, you're only as good as your references. And so I think the difference between the community of sort of social media designers and designers who are practicing and paying 401ks and dental care and all of those things, and establishing a real company around that, is that you need to educate yourself from the very beginning. And if you don't have a formal education in design like me, okay, great, you're going to have to rely on other skills. But when you see something that's interesting to you, when you see something that strikes your eye, whether it's on Instagram or online or in a book, take the time to really dig into what that was about, what was behind that image, who made that, who created that space, who were they, what connections culturally did they have, why did they choose the designers that furniture designers or makers and things like that they used in that room, and what was going on in the world at the time or that country at the time. Design for me has always been a mix of visual and sociology, and the cultural component to crafting an interior has always been something that has been as interesting to me as whether or not I like two colors together.
So I'm going to pick up on questions that Stephanie and Pauline and Nanyarid, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name, are asking about what do you look for, especially for someone who who hasn't gone to design school. When they come bringing a resume, what is it that you look for? I mean, first of all, do you hire people who don't have a traditional design education? And what is it about those people that leads you to believe they're going to make an important part of my team?
So personal style and a point of view, I think can be, you can hone that and you can refine that and you can expand that. But I think that it's really inherent. And if somebody walks into my office that has tremendous personal flair, there's an expression of who they are as a person by what they're wearing or what their work looks like or what their home, if they're not a professional designer, looks like. I'm interested in cultivating that, because there's a lot of people that know how to do AutoCAD, and there's a lot of people that can learn. And I've sent some people to learn how to do certain programs that we use that are necessary. But you can't really teach somebody why one thing is just that much more interesting than the other. That's a very difficult thing to articulate, even to a client. And I've found that that I've had everything. I've had people work for me who have gone back to design school because they felt like they wanted to. I didn't require that. I've had people on my staff sit in entry-level design courses with people who are trying to learn about the A, B's, and C's of decoration, who are in charge of $10 million renovations at the same time. Right. So, it's not a tried and true rule. For most of the design assistant positions, a design degree or an education in design is required. But for a lot of the different facets of my business, if I can surround myself with people who I just think are sort of the brightest, the best, the smartest, the most compelling, it doesn't matter to me what their background is.
Okay. Let's move into one of the facets of your business, which is decorating for private clients. And first, can you take us through a couple of images of recently completed work, just quickly to give us a sense of the kinds of projects you're working on? What's this beauty?
So this was West Hollywood kind of pied-à-terre for two friends that used to own a massive furniture store in Las Vegas. And they wanted to bring nothing except that sort of Chippendale chair that you can see or chinoiserie chair on the right, the black one.
Yep.
It was an opportunity to bring them into the world of vintage and vintage modern and furniture. And it was a gut renovation of a kind of a Tony condo in West Hollywood. And they brought their art and their photography and paintings and things like that, and a few of their objects. But it was really an opportunity for me to craft an experience for them. They primarily used this home on the weekends. They wanted it to feel layered and assembled and collected over time. And the whole thing started with the that sort of Royer style powder coated red coffee table.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Great. Next.
This was one of the few commercial projects we've ever done. It's a family-run chocolatier in Beverly Hills called Ann Sons, run by two brothers whose mother had the license for Toy Shake chocolate for many, many years. And so they took over the business and hired a new pastry chef and hired us to recraft the identity of the brand. They spent a tremendous amount of time doing a lot of research. I spent a tremendous amount of time eating caramel, and this was a really, really fun project for us to do. It's right on Brighton Way in Beverly Hills, so it was a blast. We did the interior and exterior and the concepting down to the boxes, or our consulting on the packaging and display and all of that stuff. It was really fun.
Amazing.
And delicious.
Yeah, the gift box that you sent must have gotten lost in the haze of the
It was gone, right?
Of the pandemic, because it never actually arrived at my house. But tell us about this gorgeous kitchen, which I know very well, having
so this was created for clients who actually became such good friends of our family that we spend a ton of time together. But this was a sort of a 1918 Tudor in Los Angeles as well. This was a collaboration between me and my husband, Jeremiah Brent. And we recrafted the architecture around this kitchen. It was this sort of warren of small, dark spaces. And we blew it open. So everything you see here, we put there. The hood is actually made of a 17th century French limestone over mantle, and above it there's like a sort of we couldn't figure out what to do with that one strip of wall, so we ended up doing a plaster finish from Portola paint. But this is a family kitchen. The amazing thing about it was that you were there the day this was shot, but this looks like this every day, because the storage and the way that we created this. To the right, there's symmetry of the pantry, of the cabinetry on the left and the right. And the tower of cabinetry on the right side is actually a single door to a huge, huge butler's pantry, where all the appliances are permanently plugged in. And they just wanted just a really beautiful space where everybody could gather.
Terrific. The questions are coming in fast and furious. So let's just run through the rest of the slides quickly. What's that beauty?
It's our entry in the West Village.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, that mirror was just installed like 5 hours ago. So I'm glad it's not like a live stream, because one might like fall off and land on the floor. But this is our home. And I think what represents both Jeremiah and me most is that we really like, he's much more of a modernist than I, but we both really respond to furniture and objects that are A, old, and B, have their original patina. And so that funny, beautiful oak chest of drawers is English, 18th century, and it was bought in Pasadena for like the same amount of money that we had a hamburger afterwards down the street. And the mirror above I found on Live Auctioneers online, and the bust was from our home in Los Angeles as well. And that's stone and sort of, we're not sure where it is, and it's piled with all these like beads and shell necklaces and South American things that we've brought with us from home to home.
Okay. And the next one?
That's our living room, the main floor of our home in New York City as well. And the piece of furniture to the right is a pine chest of drawers by Axel Einar Horth, this is what I meant by references. Like, if you don't know who he is, then go look him up, because so much furniture came out of this era in Sweden in the 1930s when that chest was made. Above it is a bronze triangle by the artist Ricky Swallow. Over the fireplace, which we put in, is a gilded mirror that literally has been in every single home I've ever lived in. The table in the middle is a Swedish table with its original stone top, and the chairs were the prototypes for chairs that are now being made from Blend Interiors in LA, but those are the originals. And I love this room. I love what's not in this room as much as I love what's in this room.
All right, let's do some questions. The first question is from Ayomide. I'm so sorry that I don't know how to pronounce these names, but the question is, how did you find your first clients, and like, how do you go about attracting clients?
Great question. For me, I met so many people working at the auction house in Chicago that I had already started to develop a group of people that were sort of talking about me as somebody that had at least good taste enough or good style enough to help them with their homes. I was a complete idiot when I started my company. I didn't know who could make bookshelves. I didn't know where you buy draperies. I certainly didn't have anybody who could, work with iron or limestone, or I had no trades. I had no relationships. But you have to start somewhere. And what I found was that honesty is always the best policy. If there's somebody that you could do one room for and say, you're going to have to bear with me, but here's what I'm imagining for this, and it may take me longer than somebody who's been in business for a million years, and it may be, I might make a couple more mistakes, but I promise I'll stay with it until the end, until we both love it. And I think that transparency when you're starting any business goes a really long way.
Okay, and you referenced earlier red flags when interviewing clients, and clients are interviewing you. Obviously, it's a two-way process.
Yeah.
To find the right connection. What are some of the red flags that you see that say, run away from this project, run away?
Well, I mean, this is so multi-layered, Mayor. I mean, the first red flag is if you have a meeting or a phone call or a Zoom or an appointment set up with them and they either don't show or they're really late. That shows that they don't respect other people's time, and you're going to be spending a tremendous amount of time with this person. So sometimes, things happen, and, if they call you the next day or whatever and say, I'm so sorry, I forgot to put it in my calendar or whatever, I always give people another chance. But if somebody misses 2 calls with me, I don't care what their project is. And that happened, by the way, last week. So I was like, don't even reach out again, I'm done. The second thing I would say is if they're not nice to the people that work in their home. So if you see somebody or a waiter or somebody, if they're unkind to people that work for them, that is an unbelievably strong signal that they will be unkind to you. The courtship process between designer and client lasts it's probably the fastest courtship of any relationship I've ever experienced, because the minute somebody starts spending money with you, you are in the service business, and you have to remember that. You can become friends with them or not. That's up to you or them. But the truth is that you're never not in the service business. And when you get the sense that somebody is not going to respect any boundaries, and both of those things are indicative of that, I think that that's probably the biggest warning sign.
Okay. How has the dynamic with clients, pardon me, changed over the years, particularly in this age where there's so much more information available to clients?
Yeah. I think that clients are much better educated now than they were 10 years ago, and better educated 10 years ago than they were 25 years ago. It's not uncommon at all for clients, once we're working with them, to be sending us things that they're finding online, or sometimes even sending cheaper options that are very similar that they find online. And so you have to have sort of an airtight contract, which is step one, that protects your fee structure. And then in addition to that, you also have to have sort of the guts to enforce that contract, which can be uncomfortable as you're working that intimately with someone. So if you select something for someone and they go out and find something and just buy it on their own, you have to call them out on it. And that's not always an easy thing to do. So you have to be prepared to protect the integrity of your design, and you have to be prepared to protect the integrity of your business. And you also have to be prepared to protect the sanity of the people that work for you.
I have a question from Ilana that I think, which is, other than school, where do you go to cultivate your knowledge and skills? Obviously museums and
galleries.
Galleries.
Yeah, I mean, furniture galleries. Get a part-time job. Work there on Saturday. Work for a thrift store that's in a fancy area. Go look at Greenwich, Connecticut, or the Bay Area in California, or Dallas, Texas. I mean, get yourself involved in a community where you're surrounded by fine things, where you're surrounded by quality. Auction houses are also an amazing place to start, I think, a career in design. What you want to be is somebody that's as excited by the form and the history of something as you are by what it looks like. And I think the only way to kind of unlock that for yourself is to educate yourself in that way by gaining some experience. Intern for a design firm that you respect, whose aesthetic you admire. Work for an art school. I mean, fashion there's a million parallels. Work for a fashion brand that's launching a home line. I mean, start searching for jobs that are fueled by, or a furniture company or a fabric showroom. I mean, where you're going to be interacting with people in the design community. I think it's there's so many entry points into starting your own design firm. There really are.
And on the flip side of that, how do you get yourself up to speed on the business of design? I know that certain design schools are more attentive to, the logistics of the business, but yeah. How do you learn how to structure fees? How do you make your way through that labyrinth?
So, it's funny. I've always been of the school that all ships rise when we share information with each other. Back when I started, designers never spoke really to one another. It was very uncommon to be able to pick up the phone and have a dialogue with another designer that you like and respect and know, and ask them, well, how do you bill? Or what if somebody wants just a flat fee? But I think that the world has become more transparent in many, many ways. And I think that that's a really good thing. The other day we were up for a project and the client wanted a flat fee, which we don't do. And I Googled it. I was like, what is this flat? Like, why are people asking for flat fees? Like and it's all online, all the information, because people have written about it, and you can find, like, you can charge a flat percentage. You can charge a dollar amount per square foot for a project. And these are the averages based on cities around the country or countries around the world. It's information that's all out there, but I believe in people and communication and relationships and building those relationships. And I think that anybody starting any business, but in particular in design, start forging honest and real relationships with other people in the community so that you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm really confused by this, or my upholsterer just retired. Like, you know, he was so terrific and did everything so beautifully for such a great price. Who do you use? You know, I try not to ask too many people for too many things, but I am totally open to calling one of my contemporaries and being like, I don't understand this situation. Have you ever had this happen? Could you help me walk through it?
Okay. Let's move into the arena of product design. And we have a couple of slides. Just quickly go through and give us an idea of who you're working with, who you have worked with.
Sure.
Look at that. Look at that precious baby. Have you ever thought about pimping out your own gorgeous children for these?
Well, Jared and I actually have a rule around it. We made a mistake once with an endorsement deal in Los Angeles, and we agreed that our daughter could be photographed, and they took like 800 pictures of her when she was 2. You know, our kids appear on our television programs in about 10% of the actual content, and that's intentional. You know, that baby is a model. I don't know that baby. This was a launch for Target that was done many years ago. But I've been designing products sold both at mass and trade retailing for the last 20 years. And I've had relationships with Linens and Things and Home Shopping Network and Target, the Shade Store, Kravit, Living Spaces, Swavel, which is a wholesaler and designer of textiles that are sold at Calico Corners and a lot of other places. So, I mean, I've been very, very productive and very, very busy on the product side. And I think the truth is that where that stems from for me is that I've like annoyed our mutual friends, my mayor, by like on trips to you know, Southern Italy or Greece, where they're all like talking about the architecture, and I'm photographing the pattern of floor in a chapel because I can't wait to turn that into a window shade. And they're like, "Can you please just like enjoy this?" And I'm like, "Well, you're not enjoying it either. You're not ever recreating these dendrites, but I am." So, you know, it's been fun for me, and it's probably the biggest. One of the biggest joys I have, aside from really crafting a space that fits the people that live there, is seeing things and pulling things from all over, and sort of narrowing down that vision to create things that people live with and really like.
Okay. Let's see some of the other things.
Yeah, that's the Shade Store. These were this specific category was roller shades, which is what I launched with them many years back. We've since expanded the collection to a lot of other things, but roller shades were like this weird sort of opportunity where you had 2 choices, like a vinyl shade from a home improvement store or a solar shade. And Shade Store and I kind of thought it would be interesting to be able to offer these in patterns, and they've done shockingly well. It's just another opportunity, I think, to let your design personality shine through.
Love it. Next.
This is my first collection for Kravit, and this was an unbelievable partnership. They're such a great company. They're so interesting. They're so very smart, and they have what I say is probably the most extensive archive of antique textiles at their headquarters in Bethpage, New York. It's unbelievable. The owners just travel around the world and buy everything beautiful, whether it's a tiny 2-inch scrap or bolts and bolts of a 17th century hand embroidered velvet. So my collection for them is called Well Traveled, and it's got influences from everything from the Wiener Werkstatt to Mexican blankets to the weird sort of Jewish boy from Minnesota version of an English country house.
I love it. Do we have one more?
This is Living Spaces, which is for everybody on the West Coast. You would know what that is because the commercials run every 4 minutes. But Living Spaces is a huge regional retailer, again, family owned, terrific partner. And this collection of case furniture and upholstery is designed by my husband and me.
Lovely. Okay, well, this is a good place to start the conversation because you have the very rare ability in our world to move from mass, from the Targets of the world to Kravet. And how do you keep all of those balls in the air? Is it difficult? Find yourself with a mass retailer and also maintain your credibility at the high end of interior decor.
Yeah, I was actually on the phone with Leanne Ford yesterday discussing this exact thing. It is difficult, and it has been traditionally difficult for me. I think what's been harder for me than designing successful product and making a lot of money from the sales of those products at mass has been maintaining the attention of the traditional shelter press throughout that journey. And, you know, the truth is that I help sell magazines, and I know that. And so is my work the most refined, the most beautiful in the world? No. Is anyone's? I don't know. Do I have tons of people who have been, graced the pages of AD for half a century that I am in awe of their artistry? Absolutely. But I think what's unique about my role and my career in design and my sort of position in the interior design world is that I'm grateful for all of it. I'm so happy to have had the opportunity and to maintain the opportunities and to create new opportunities to work with both mass and high-end product. And I'm also really grateful that at the core of all of that is creating these deeply personal, layered spaces, not only for myself as my own education grows, but for the clients that hire my firm. It's definitely been an interesting road. We lost Mayor.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
There's so many technical things, and I knew I would forget one thing. I still have a landline because I'm like an old Altacocker, as we
No,
say.
you have to have a landline.
Right.
My parents tell me that too.
That was my one thing that I forgot to unplug, so that I'm missing the offer to refinance my car or home.
100%. 100%.
A lot of designers think of, product as this kind of gold mine, this, kind of holy grail, like I'm going to have money coming in passively. I won't have to, have active clients. I mean, what's the reality of the business side of product? What have been the most successful ones for you? And tell me about the,
so the nuts and bolts of it are this: they're all interconnected. You can have a successful design firm without doing product, which is why I've never turned my back on the firm that I founded 25 years ago. So that can operate and thrive without product or television or any of that. But once you get into product, you can't really have that and sustain that without doing design constantly, because that's what keeps you educated, informed, aware, and energized around design. So if you're not client facing any longer and you're just kind of sitting in a room hoping to cash the checks from window shades and picture frames, it doesn't really work like that. Television, the honest truth is that television supports all of those things. Even in this day and age where, you know, when somebody applies for a job with me, I look at their Instagram. When I look at someone's Instagram if I'm going to get a haircut. But, you know, media still fuels awareness and still fuels, whether that's social media or television or print or digital, it doesn't matter. It's all part of a whole. So if you're not doing it all, there's somebody else out there that is.
Okay, well, that's a good transition into, because I've got a lot of questions about social media and television, and let's just run a couple of images of Nate's pretty face from various. Oh, look at that family. What was that line from Steel Magnolias? You all look like you were sculpted out of cream cheese.
Oh my God, Oscar, by the way, our son, weighed like, this is like a testament to Jer's core strength, because he was like 70 pounds at one. You can see it in his legs right there. Yeah, so that's the family. My husband, Jeremiah, Brent, me, our daughter, Poppy, and our son, Oscar.
Beautiful. Give me the next one. Yeah.
Lord.
This is, I mean, look at this. But, you know, you were very frank about what you were saying. Nate Berkus helped sell magazines because you're so active in television, online, all of that. Give me the next one. I don't know what this is, but it's precious. Give me the next one.
That was from my talk show. That was part of the Oprah era.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just, you know, 30 seconds. How did it happen? How did you?
Well, first of all, let's be honest. You and I would maybe be having this conversation, but it would be very, very different had I not met Oprah and had I not spent 12 years doing makeovers on her show. Okay. And I am the first one to give credit where credit is due across the board. Oprah was and remains an amazing mentor and influence for me. We laughed hysterically on and off camera, and Oprah loves design. It's something that, you know, her homes have never been published, but it's something that she is absolutely passionate about and is fascinated by. She doesn't like my design. She's never hired me personally for anything, but she understands that a lot of people do connect to my design, which I'm totally good with. So what you see here are two people, one incredible woman who gave this guy an enormous opportunity. And then you see me, who took that opportunity and really tried to take advantage of that in the most positive way possible, by never doing anything that would tarnish Oprah's brand or offend Oprah, but also by saying no to so many things that could have made me so much money over the years, because they just weren't the right thing to do.
Okay. Let's talk social media because you can't get away from it. Yes, and more beautiful Nate editorial. Let's go back to the conversation. Nate, what are the do's and don'ts of developing an online following, of posting? I have my own very specific ideas of what is successful or not, but tell me from your perspective.
I mean, first of all, I think the first do is to behave properly and behave with good manners on social media. Credit people when it's their work, credit photographers when it's their work. Thank people that have helped create that image or have created a product that lies within that image. I think it's also really important to have a very strong point of view and a reason behind why you're posting. I'm not an expert in this at all. I actually have a company that I work with that deals with all of my social media. I approve it and I send them imagery, and I have my own ideas about how I want to be positioned and how I wish to be perceived. But again, that's delegation for me. That is one thing I don't have the time to do.
Right.
You know, I'm not interested in, they beg me to take videos of me eating and walking down the street and changing a diaper. And I'm like, ugh, no thanks.
Well, in terms of delegating, tell me about hiring PR. This is a question I get asked over and over again. Should a designer hire a PR person? What are the considerations? And the bottom line, is it worth it? So tell me.
You know what? Listen, I think that there's really skilled and amazing, talented people who work in PR, and I've hired them, and they've worked for me or for my firm. And I certainly work with lots of PR agencies with, you know, in tandem with projects for corporate America or different brands and things like that that I work with. Would it be the first thing that I would spend money on if I was starting my design firm? Probably not. You know, but then again, you know, there are people whose careers have been made by joining with the correct PR person and being positioned and brought to the right dinners and brought to the right events and put in front of, I keep thinking of Alice right now as I'm talking, but you know, so it's an interesting, it's a very interesting thing. I'm probably not the best person to ask this question to, because I started really with a relationship pre-social media with the local Chicago media, which was very supportive of my business in the beginning. And
if I can interrupt you, I think this is an important point, is that a lot of young designers are pitching AD or pitching another design magazine when local media is incredibly important.
Oh, it's wildly important. You know, you can get more projects that you actually can do, especially in the beginning, if you focus on local media. And cultivating those relationships is massive and can be unbelievably helpful. Whether even if it's just a quote about how you use a color, it doesn't have to be a full spread of your home or a project. So all press really in that regard, especially in building a business, I've always believed is good press. But I mean, let's be honest, Mayor, I was on the Oprah Winfrey Show for 12 years.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really need a publicist.
Yeah, okay. That makes that makes sense. And I would simply add, having, you know, there are, it's incredibly important to be super candid about your goals with the publicist and vice versa, of what is actually deliverable, what will actually build your business.
Totally.
And to have a very clear idea about the image that you want to project.
100%. Well, and see so for instance, what I do think is a sound investment, like I work with a company called Colony Creative that is owned by my friend Grace in Los Angeles that does my social media. I'm never taking that on. And I don't want to know what time you're supposed to post and when most people are on their phones and what type of content resonates the most for the most likes and followers. I don't understand the reports that she sends me. I look at my number of followers, my reach, and I know that matters when my managers are pitching me to do a television commercial or you know, go stand at the electronics show in support of or in partnership with a brand. So, you know, that to me is something that's worth every nickel, because it's just something that I don't know how to do at all.
What is your Instagram following at the moment?
It's like a little bit over 1 million. Like I'm right under 1.1 million.
You'll be Kim Kardashian before we all know it.
Well, actually, I will tell you this, what I'm most proud of with that, because I'm a late adopter to technology. Jeremiah doesn't let me touch any light switches and stuff in our house, which for, you know, he has due cause for that. But I started a little bit late. What I'm more interested in even than the number of followers is the number of impressions and the interactions that I get. So that of that 1 million followers or 1 million plus followers, there are people that are really engaged in what I post. as opposed to, posting something one day and having no one comment, and then the next day, having 500,000 people comment. I think it's been a really interesting thing for me to learn about. I'm still would much rather be taking pictures of the floor of a cathedral. So, whatever.
So is the company that you work with to handle all of this, do they go through all of the, direct messages to see if there's like a genuine client in there who is worth responding to?
I read my own Instagram direct messages. I read them. I don't read my own Facebook, so it's just too overwhelming. So, and also people are really mean on Facebook, which is
everywhere.
Wow. Yeah, I guess so. But whatever. I guess it comes with the turf, if you will. But people get really like batty and aggressive on Facebook, I've found. So I'm not a part of that. I sort of I'll respond directly more often than they do. They're not. That's not part of their scope of work to suss out questions and things like that and respond to people. But the crafting of the schedule, the editorial schedule attached to my Instagram, my Facebook, and Twitter is something that they do, and they manage it, and they post it, and they and we have like sort of creative meetings every quarter to kind of talk about what worked and what didn't work and what content I'm really interested in and how I want to be perceived, and is my Instagram too close to Jeremiah's? Is it, is there enough differentiation? I mean, all of this stuff is really important business conversation. And those conversations happen over and over.
We've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to take some more questions.
Great.
Because I'm seeing some good questions. There's a question from Kiki about getting clients to invest in your vision and moving them up to spending more. And how do you do that? How do you start to acquire jobs with a higher price point and to convince clients that a bigger investment in budget will ultimately be great for the job?
So clients, in my experience, respond to two things. One, transparency and authenticity, number one, and two, creativity. And I think that those two things run in tandem. There's so many things out there right now at our disposal as designers and so many ways of bringing a space together. The first big budget job that I ever got, the client lived next door to Michael Jordan, and they were terrified to work with me. I was like a kid. And I said to them, I thought about it, and I was like, oh, but I charge this retainer because somebody told me I should charge this retainer, and that will make me seem more serious. And I finally looked at the homeowner, and I was like, what are you scared of? He said, well, I'm scared that you're going to make all these mistakes, and I'm not going to like the room at the end, and I'm going to have wasted all of this money and time. And I said, all right, so let me ask you something. Let's stop talking about the whole house. What if we try one room together? And if you love it, we'll just keep moving. And if you don't love it, then that's it. I'll fix whatever I do wrong. I mean, I'm an honest, straightforward guy. I'm not going to, disappear. But what if we just try it? Let's try it together. We'll have fun. That I know. And that job led to 10 of their friends, and the budgets opened up immediately because there was trust established. So, for me, it's not about just attracting the high net worth clients per se from the get-go. It's about establishing trust with the clients that you have. And if you do a great job with a client who doesn't have a big budget, chances are, if they've got a friend or a family member who comes to dinner at that house, or comes to pick up their kids at that house, and they see a beautifully crafted interior done at a great budget, then your name will be in the running for bigger and larger jobs. It doesn't happen instantly. It really doesn't.
Gotcha. And Jack has had a question up for a while about hiring designers who have been educated from abroad, who may be new to the US? What are the pluses and minuses there about sponsoring talent? Is it becoming more difficult to have people who need green cards, all of that? Tell me a little bit about working with people from abroad or who've been educated abroad.
I think that for the health of a design firm, for the health of any company, to have as many people from as many different backgrounds is of utmost importance. When BLM became a thing, my company reached out immediately to the Black Artists Guild, to New York School of Interior Design, asking for resumes, asking if we could mentor, students, Black students. I have sponsored green cards for South American, South African employees over the years. I have gone through that. I have paid for it. To me, it's the quality of the relationship and the quality of the person and how integral they are to your business. I would never not hire someone I thought was amazing just because I had to sponsor their green card.
Okay. Pauline has a question simply about the net that you cast in sourcing vintage. And you say you have a big team. Are they looking at auctions around the world? You know, where do you go to find something fresh, interesting, different?
So, we use the traditional online resources like every other design firm, and they're great. And we use them in a myriad of ways. We use everything from starting with First Dibs. We use Cherish a lot. We use eBay. We use eBay.fr, which is eBay France. We might need to be able to translate that sconce is applique. You got to know that stuff, but it's fun, and you can buy things you can find really beautiful things for incredible pricing. My latest fixation on earth, which will probably be like the downfall of my marriage, eventually, is live auctioneers. I live my life on live auctioneers, and I buy everything from incredible furniture and lighting and rugs and textiles to jewelry and watches and bags that I give my girlfriends as gifts. I mean, and live auctioneers for me is so exciting because the truest value of something is the value that it achieves at auction. So, I mean, I see things there. We're building an incredible new headquarters for my office in Chicago right now, and I'm fixated on having only the furniture that I love and want in this space. And I just keep sending things that I've been finding and buying. 18th century English or French walnut console for $200. But I'm a secondary market junkie. I will go to any resale store, any pawn shop, any thrift store. When I lived in France years ago, I spent my entire time in France, like digging through dépôt vente and flea markets and anything like that. Because to me, it has a story attached to it when you find it secondhand, when you find it in one of those places. And online, of course, it doesn't have a story attached, but it's such a great price.
Yeah. As we wind down, I have a question from Mira that brings us sort of full circle back to where we started, about tips for younger designers or designers who are moving from a different profession, about establishing their voice. And you've addressed this in different ways through our conversation, but do you have some final thoughts on that, on finding your voice and projecting it with the most clarity and eloquence?
Listen, for me, design has always been about evolution and education, married to experience. And so I think the truth is that our voices change. What doesn't change is our desire as creative people, as artists, to maintain a point of view and to reserve the right to evolve as time, as your vision, as your exposure goes on. I think as long as you can stay authentic to what matters to you, what you think is beautiful at that moment in time, and stand up and admit it and say it and raise your hand and say, I'm proud of this, this is my best work, regardless of what other people are doing, then you establish a credibility that is inherent from being that authentic.
My dog just threw up on my couch, so maybe this is a good time to thank you, Linus. You were very quiet through most of this. Nate, I really appreciate your candor, and I think they're, really solid information. So thank you so much for this hour, and thank you for everyone who showed up for the talk and asked questions. We really appreciate you being such an engaged audience. Thank you, and everyone have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, Nate. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everybody. It's me. I'm back again just to say thank you so much for participating today. Thank you, Nate, for liveauctioneers.com. That is very exciting. I am on their page right now. I promise they're not a sponsor, but we do have some wonderful sponsors to thank. Especially we have Monogram Luxury Appliances, Tischler & Son, CB2, Benjamin Moore, and Caesarstone. We could not have done it without you. I want to let everybody know, this is our very first summit. I hope we can look forward to many, many more. I'm sure we had a lot of design assistants, a lot of accountant, a lot of behind the scenes people on this call helping all of you run your businesses. And we have the same thing at Condé Nast. So I want to give a huge shout out to the people on our team that made it happen today. Katie with the IE, Jordan, Nadine, Shelly, and Ben, they all made this happen along with a number of other people who you didn't see on screen, but who just really gave their all. And of course, all our moderators and all our talent. Last but not least, I want to thank everybody who's a member of the AD Pro community. If you're not a member, we welcome you to sign up. You can go over to artdigestpro.com and sign up and become a member today. And until next time, I wish you all a beautiful night, and we will see you soon. Thanks.